Meat City, baby.
Hello and welcome back to Meat City Gaming. JD here with another video in the Banner Saga, and we have entered Chapter 2. So, as I mentioned in the previous video, which was kind of the broad introduction to this series, we are doing a hard mode playthrough in the Banner Saga. And in Chapter 2, it's an interesting chapter. It is kind of a long, drawn out, there's not so many battles, but it's this you're kind of fighting your resources and trying to extend and get to this big city destination at the end of the chapter in a decent setup while conserving resources and starting to build up your characters along the way. And the main two characters that you need to think about are Rook and Alette. And that's who you start with in this chapter. You can see that Rook is kind of your personal hero character for this. The game's kind of got two parts. Chapter 1, you start with what I call the varl caravan. They're the giants. And then Chapter 2, you have the human caravan. And they start apart and, they start to cross their stories and meet up towards the end of the game. So Rook and Alette, father and daughter, both ranged attackers. Rook is really, really interesting because he can attack at range with a bow. He can also attack up close adjacent squares with his axe, where most archers can't. They can only attack from range, so if somebody's right next to them, they can't attack. They have to move one square back in order to do so. But Rook also has, I think, what is the most powerful ability in the Banner Saga 1, which is his Mark Prey ability. And what he has to do, he has to be adjacent to use it, so he has to get up into one of the 4 adjacent squares to an enemy, and then he uses that ability. He does an armor attack. It'll be based on his skill. It's usually like 1 armor break, and then as you level it up, it'll do more. And it also calls anyone else in range of that enemy to attack that enemy. So again, if it's a melee character, they have to be right next to it. If it's a spear character, they've got range of 2. If they're within range of 2, they'll attack. And then archers, if they're within range of their bows, they'll attack as well. So you can have your full team attack one character if they were all in range. Very unlikely for that to happen, but it's still a good skill if you've got 2, 3, 4 characters in range and you can hit with a bunch of attacks. That's going to be very valuable and very powerful. One thing to keep in mind with Rook as well, in order to level up your characters, you need to get kills with them, a killing blow, and you have to reach certain thresholds, whatever it is. It might be 2 kills to go up to level 2, and then 5 kills to go up to level 3, and then 10 to go up to level 4, whatever. There are various ranges of kills, and you can see them on the character screen. But getting a killing blow is important, because if a character never kills anybody, you won't be able to level them up. And what's really good about Rook is when he does his Mark Prey attack, if that attack kills the enemy, Rook gets credit for the kill, and the character that landed the finishing blow. And that can be tough to figure out. If you've got Rook and 2 archers both shoot at the enemy, which archer is going to get the credit? I haven't quite figured it out. Is it the closer one? Is it random? I don't know. I do know melee seems to attack first. So if you've got Rook and another melee character and an archer, Rook does the armor break, the melee character's damage is enough to kill the enemy, and then the archers also attack and do damage, but the enemy was already dead. Rook and the melee character will get the credit for the kill. So, getting those kills, reaching those thresholds is important. Rook allows you to double up on those, as Rook is a very important character in this game. And Alette turns out to be a powerhouse in the following games, the Banner Saga 2 and 3. So don't sleep on her. She's a little bit weaker in the Banner Saga 1. Her special ability allows you to shoot through multiple enemies or friendlies. It's not, friendly fire is on, so she can shoot in a straight line with her special ability and damage everything in that line. Hopefully it's multiple enemies and not friendlies. It's situational. There's times where it's okay, but it's never really great. So she's okay, she's fine, but not as much of a powerhouse as Rook. So in this, first it's kind of a tutorial how you use these humans, how they fight, and then you go to their home village, meet up with some other members of the party, including the one varl, the giant that's in the human caravan, and then you start this trek across the map to try and get to this big city at the end of the chapter. And there'll be battles along the way. There'll be chances to recruit additional people. The ones that matter, so what you really want to focus on is Rook and Alette, and I would say pick one to focus on, and the second definitely gets lesser priority. And there's reasons for that. They get a little bit spoilery, so I will address those, but kind of in later chapters. I don't want to blow everything up front in terms of the story, but definitely pick one of them that you like to invest in for sure. Oddleaf, who is another archer character, very good. I would invest in her. And then Ivor himself, the big giant, also very good. The other characters, if you like one, by all means go for it, but they're not, in my playthroughs, they're not as crucial, they're not as important. The one guy I do like, I would say, is Eggle. He's the human with a shield. Usually the varl are your meat shields. They've got higher health, they've got higher armor, they can block up more spaces. The giants, this is kind of an interesting mechanic. They take up a 2x2 square on the map, so 4 spaces on the map, while the human characters only take up 1. So that creates these interesting positional battles. One thing we didn't talk about in the previous video is how the battles actually work. I talked a little bit about the mechanics, the health, and the armor and all that, but how the turns work out in this game is also very interesting. So as long as both teams, you and the enemy, have multiple people up and available, not taken out, not injured, turns alternate. So if you have your full team of 6 and the enemy has 6, well, you'll go your first, their first, your second, their second, your third, their third, right? You'll bounce back and forth. But as you take out the enemies, even if they only have 2 left, you have your full team of 6 and they've got 2, they will still get every other turn. So your first person will go, their first will go. Your second will go, their second will go. Your third will go, their first will go again. Your fourth will go, their second will go again, right? So you don't gain any advantage as far as the turns go by taking out enemies early. However, when you get 1 enemy remaining, then you enter what's called pillage mode, and the second you do that, the second you take out the second to last enemy, so there's just 1 left, that one that's left gets an immediate turn, which is important to keep in mind. So they get to go, and then all of your characters go. And then they go again, and then all of your characters go. So once you get it down to 1, now they can't just go pop, 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 and take your guys out real quick. Then you gain that advantage. So think about that. If you leave, the 2 most powerful enemy units for last, the ones that can do the most damage, the ones that can hit the hardest, and you've got all 6 of your guys up, well, you're going to have turns where, you have a little plink shot that just breaks some armor, and then this big bruiser is going to come in and whack one of your guys. And then maybe you'll break the other one's armor, or you do 1 health damage, and then he's going to come in and whack one of your guys. So it's important to think about that. Strategy-wise, it usually makes a lot of sense to leave an enemy on 1 health, right? If they've got 1 health, the most damage they can do is 1. They can do armor break damage still, which is annoying, but they're not going to take characters out by doing that. So an enemy on the field with 1 health, to me, is an asset, not a liability, because that enemy will still take up a turn in the turn order, but can't do much damage, can only do that 1 point of damage. All the abilities, when I say this, about how much damage they can do, how many spaces they can move, what fuels the special abilities, is willpower, kind of like magic or mana, but it's like a star system. So your character has 5 willpower, and they're able to use certain amounts per turn, again, all based on their stats. So they might be allowed to use 1 of their willpower per turn, or 2, or up to 3. And so if a character can do 2 damage, you can add willpower to the strikes, or inspiration, whatever it's called. You can add those stars to the strike. So I'm a 12 health character, I go up against an enemy with 10 armor, I'm going to do 2 damage. But I've got 3 willpower available, so I can take that 2 and add my 3 willpower, and now I can do 5. Now the willpower is a limited resource, it regenerates some. It regenerates at the end of every battle, you get it all back, so don't worry about that. But throughout the battle itself, each individual battle, it's a little bit tough to regenerate, so you have to be sparing in how you use it. And it's also used for movement. If I can move 3 tiles, I can go 2 more if I have 2 willpower available to extend my movement. So, things to keep in mind, right? Damaging an enemy is good. Get them down to 1 health, leave them around. And then at the end, when you've got them all injured, then you can clean them all up. And as you're doing that, then when they're getting those rapid fire turns, there's nobody that's super dangerous to do a whole bunch of damage to. So again, the mechanics here, the battle system, really unique, right? It's got all these little twists and flavors that I haven't seen put together before in any other title. So I really liked it, and I thought it was a fun way to have these turn-based battles kind of sprinkled in throughout the larger story. So there is also, as you're walking in the map, the other thing, I mentioned this is kind of a resource grind for Chapter 2. You have two main resources when you're out in the open world kind of map. I shouldn't say open world, it's a linear path, but when you're out in the world. And the first is supplies. So you're traveling, you've got your heroes who do your battling, but they're traveling with a whole caravan. It's civilians and people and farmers and hunters and whatever. And so, you've got your, 6, 10, 12 heroes that you can use for battle, but they might be traveling with 300 people. And so you have a number of supplies, and based on how big your caravan is, they consume a number of those supplies on every day that you're traveling. And so that's indicated on the map there. When you're doing that, you've got 20 days of supplies left. And as you walk, the timer at the top, the day timer, tick, 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 and then cycles. Now you've got, it's day 4, it goes tick, 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 and now it's day 5. And so you consume that day's worth of supplies, and you can see that number tick down. And if you ever run out, if you have 0 supplies at the end of a day, nobody eats that day. So you're going to lose people, people are going to starve and die, and your morale is going to drop. And so morale, which I'm speaking of, is useful because if you enter a battle with a certain morale, high morale, you can start with bonus willpower. If you enter with medium or no or low willpower, you can get a neutral, medium or low willpower. You can get a neutral or penalty to your willpower for that battle. So traveling naturally makes your morale go down. Just you're marching on the trail, right? So that makes people unhappy. Decisions that you make, like I said, they can cost you characters. They can also cost you morale. And you can improve morale by resting. So at any time as you're walking in the map, you can set up camp, and then you can rest for a day. Now that's going to consume that day's worth of supplies, but it's going to rest everybody, and they'll be happy, and your morale will go up. So you've got this constant balance. How far do I need to go? How much do I have in supplies? How upset are people? Is it worth consuming a day of supplies to improve my morale and keep the people happy for my next battle so I get the extra willpower? Or do I not worry about it and make them miserable and just try to get there with as much supply as possible to carry into the future chapters? It's a really fun and cool mechanic. The other thing you have to think about is called Renown. It's kind of the currency. It's the other part of leveling up a character, and it's also how you buy supplies. So your characters need to hit these kill thresholds in order to be eligible to move up to the next level. So you've got to get 2 finishing blows to go from level 1 to level 2. On top of that, if you've met that threshold, you have to spend the Renown to go up to the next level. So it might cost 5 Renown to go from level 1 to level 2, and 10 Renown to go from 2 to 3, right? So you have to have the Renown available to go up those levels as well, but you can also use Renown to get more supplies when you stop at a town. You can trade it in for supplies so you have food for your people. You can also trade it for items. Each character can carry 1 accessory which will boost certain attributes. 1 might give extra armor, 1 might give extra damage, 1 might give a crit chance, right? So, I would say use items or buy items sparingly in the Banner Saga. If you're going to play the whole trilogy, as you advance through them, the items become more and more powerful and you carry them through, and there's not many here in the first game that are really powerful, really worth it to carry through. So I would buy them sparingly. You'll come across random ones that are pretty good. Anything that gives straight strength, like 2 or more strength, +2 strength, +3 strength, pretty good. Anything that gives break, +2 break, +3 break, also pretty good. Those I would consider. Everything else, in terms of purchasing it for Renown, probably a pass for me. So that's gonna be it for Chapter 2. You've got decisions to make, you've got characters to recruit, focus on Rook and Alette, or one or the other, one more than the other, Oddleaf and Ivor, and try to conserve your supplies and get to the city with as much supplies and levels and renown as possible, so you're ready for the next chapter, which is going to be not 3, we switch back to the varl for that, but chapter 4, which is a grueling one for the human caravan. When you get to the city, there are some big decisions to be made there. You can try to get into the city, or you can just wait outside the city. The one thing that you want to make sure you don't do is team up with a guy called Onif, who you don't really have to worry about now, but there's certain situations, certain decisions that you can make. If you try to get into the city by using the sewers, or if you try to break down the gate, then you can still come across this Onif character. And if you camp outside the city, you'll get a chance to come across him again. But I want to put that out there now. Teaming up with him, putting him into your caravan or into your party, about the worst decision you can make in the game. So watch out for him. If he shows up, definitely turn him down. But that's more for chapter 4 than for chapter 2. So good luck with chapter 2 if you're making your way through it. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.
from thriving city. The walls are frustrated. Now just keep the howling winds at bay. With luck, they'll hold out against dredge as well.